and welcome to a special edition of 5 Reasons. I guess this is the extra yard, right? But it's not the extra yard
No,
because
it's not that.
there's two guys from the extra yard. There's one guy from the post up. There's there's one guy from 3 yards per carry. It's weird. Like what happened? We're gonna
It's
talk about
it's
Joe
a melting
Burrow.
pot. It's a melting
Yeah, we're gonna
pot,
talk
which
about
is
Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert for an
3
hour
yards
here.
per extra post up.
Yeah. It's a special edition, all right? Because I guess something happened today, right?
Oh yeah, something.
But as always, we are brought to you by a fine sponsor. It's a new sponsor to 3 Yards Per Carry. It's a new sponsor to 5 Reasons Sports. It's Water Cleanup of Florida. Are you a South Florida property owner with an insurance claim? Are you dealing with water, mold, or fire damage? Looking for a reputable, fully licensed, insured, and certified contractor? Water Cleanup of Florida is here for you 24 hours a day. When a disaster strikes in your home or business, you need specialized, fast, and reliable services. Water Cleanup of Florida understands the impact and stress of unexpected disasters may cause. With over 62 years of combined experience, Michael, Robert, Eric, and their team is prepared to handle any size disasters. The guys are born and raised in South Florida, so change the narrative on the way contractors do business in South Florida, and that is also very extremely important to them. Their objective is to make cleanup and insurance claim process painless and hassle-free. Water Cleanup of Florida is also a licensed building contractor, so they provide A to Z service, one-stop shopping that business homeowners and business owners can require. There is no need to bring any other contractors. They will handle it all for you. Call or text them anytime at 561-408-7835 for immediate assistance. That is 561-408-7835. Water Cleanup of Florida. All right, so I thought we were going to talk about Senior Bowl, but I'm on here to talk about something else. Seems like the latest Dolphin coach, Brian Flores, has
ex-head coach, right?
Well, yeah. Well, he was the latest. Like, they don't have a coach right now. Like, are we sure they're going to hire a coach? Like,
Are we sure a coach wants to come here?
Right.
But he filed a lawsuit this afternoon. I downloaded the entire lawsuit, and we're not going to really like handicap the lawsuit per se, but we kind of know what it says, and we know what the lawsuit's about. Royal, your thoughts, your immediate thoughts, and then we're going to get into the individual things in it, but your immediate thoughts to what this is about and what it's trying to accomplish.
Yeah, so essentially what Brian Flores did today was fall on the sword for all black coaches in the league about an issue that has been longstanding. The Rooney Rule is a crock of shit. They know it. And so that's essentially what this is shedding on, disparaging way that black coaches are treated amongst the NFL. Brian Flores is just the face of it right now. Like, he's just trying to lend his face so that other coaches can get on board with this class action lawsuit. But essentially, it's just him sacrificing his career to say, hey, listen, what the NFL does to black coaches is wrong. And this is my story in terms of how I feel about it. But hopefully other people jump on board and try to help him explain that. Because, I mean, we all know that the Rooney Rule is just for show. Like, in my opinion, that's just what it's always been. It's like a way to get people to come in there to say that we're looking genuinely giving a look to minority candidates. And in actuality, that's not what was going on. It's the good old boy network. I think that's pretty much common knowledge at this point. And Flores is just trying to shed light on it with this lawsuit.
Yeah, and more to that point, and this is also in the lawsuit, and it's just a matter of fact. There have been 12 openings the last 2 years. There's still 3 openings right now. Okay. And out of those 12 openings, only one was filled with a minority candidate, and that was David Culley, who was then fired this year. As far as GMs, I don't have those numbers. I do know that Chicago has hired I keep forgetting his name. Is it Pohl or something like that? But he's a minority candidate for GM, but they hired Eberflus to be their head coach, but they interviewed Brian Flores.
6 of the NFL's 32 teams are a black general manager.
Okay, so they added 1 this offseason, which is to Chicago.
I think the Vikings ones, maybe?
Yes, so that they added 2 then. So they were at 4, and then they added 2 this year. But as far as head coaches, which this is where it all starts with the Rooney Rule, one hiring in the last 12 openings the last 2 years. Juan, we talked about it for ages, right? Like we talk about it all the time. And we mention it like, yeah, this is obviously just to fill the Rooney Rule. And it's obvious when they do it too, right?
Yep.
So what do you think of the original thinking to the Rooney Rule was, okay, you interview these guys, you vet them, and you put them through your process. They get into the system, they get coordinator jobs, and then they're that much closer to getting the big jobs. But if you really read into it, there's only 11 black DCs, defensive coordinators. There's 6 black offensive coordinators. That hasn't worked either. So we talk about sham interviews, and I guess this lawsuit is just basically putting it out there like, yeah, everything you've been talking about for the last 20 years, all of that is true.
Yeah, and I think for me, I took it in waves because when something like this big comes out, I try you try not to overreact because there's going to be a lot of whose side of it is it, and you got to kind of paint the story right in the middle, in my opinion, right? But as far as like how I read it, like there's a certain parts of it where it just feels like it's like a kind of like a plea for help, but like in a less structured way than I would have imagined it. Like it starts off with obviously, what's obviously going on with the NFL as far as like the good old, the good Boyle network where it's just, you're hiring people that you're accustomed to. But then he talks about, also things like, for instance, like the Giants head coaching position where, Bill Belichick is texting, him, hey, congrats on the job. And then, later on realizing he's actually texting the wrong Brian, it was for Brian Dable. And this was 3 days before his interview, right? So it's like, I can see why somebody would be vexed about that. I can see why somebody would also be vexed about, being painted after the fact that somebody who only wants to go after DW, but then somehow here comes Ross trying to, legally in the NFL terms, tamper with somebody who's already a quarterback who signed. So it's like, which way are we going to have it? And then I think ultimately the way I kind of received the whole thing is just, I'm gonna be here and like Rose said, I'm gonna fall on the sword and whoever has felt this, whoever has gone and experienced this, this is the time to speak out. This is the time to really, kind of just bring it, and whatever happens.
Yeah, and we have Louis T. Sung here, and he wrote a piece basically detailing all the events of the day. Louis, have you read the lawsuit?
I read the aspects of the Dolphins side of it when I broke it to Dono right before his show was about to end. That's why it ended up getting extended an extra half hour, because Dono and I were basically reacting to the immediate news breaking. But essentially what the mindset of just strictly with the Dolphins part of it, this kind of boils down to, and this is just my opinion of it, is that I feel like there's something going on in that building, because in recent years, the Dolphins have been more uptight. The Dolphins have been much more unwilling to let media do their usual media thing that we've been used to for the past decade and a half.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but to that effect, on Monday, they were supposed to interview Mike McDaniel at 4:00. They told nobody that they canceled that interview, and they moved the interview to Thursday, evidently because Mike McDaniel had told them that he was just, going to be flying in to Mobile, because that's where the interview was going to take place, supposedly at the Senior Bowl, and that Mike McDaniel felt, rightfully so, that he was not going to get on a plane in the middle of the night to fly all night and then go meet with the Dolphins at 4:00 in the afternoon, right? Dolphins told nobody about this. It took 49ers beat writers and Mike Shanahan to reveal that Mike McDaniel couldn't meet with the Dolphins yesterday at 4:00 and that they were meeting on Thursday. So yeah, go ahead. Like this, this franchise secretive and everything's cloak and dagger, and they don't want to leak anything. But yeah, go ahead. What you're saying?
And usually, whenever people in general, forget the Dolphins, people in general, whenever they suddenly start keeping everything close to the vest, whenever suddenly like anybody knowing anything makes you a threat in their eyes, people get punished by the Dolphins now in the media for the smallest of offenses. And so the only time that happens is if you have something to hide. So speaking strictly to the things like Ross allegedly bribed Brian Flores to tank. Number one, I was against tanking in the first place. Everybody knows this from back in 2019 when I debated David Friedman over it. I was not into the tanking thing, and obviously Ross was. He wanted to tank. We all knew that the Dolphins were going to tank, and and we all made fun of the Dolphins. It's like, oh my God, they can't even tank properly. Well, now we're getting some kind of a picture in our heads that says that Flores was the one who said, I'm not doing that. And I can understand why. Again, if I were Brian Flores, yes, it's hard to pass down $100,000 under the table. It's like, here, every time you lose, I'll pay you. But what a blow to your pride. Like, that's basically saying that you have no pride as a coach, as a person. That you basically don't care. And Flores isn't like that. Like, if anything, we seem to perceive Flores as having a very, very much of a strong ego. So, of course, he was not going to do that tanking thing.
Yeah, and to be clear, what's alleged, and I was on Twitter all day trying to explain this to people, and some people were like, what the hell do you mean by he wasn't bribing him? And I was trying to explain in a complaint. In a complaint, the language has to be extremely clear. Okay, and in that complaint, it just says, and you could tell by the wording, the way that they use the wording, that he was paid $100,000 or he was offered $100,000 per loss, not $100,000 to lose. Okay, so this is basically compensation for. It's basically hazard pay, is what's being offered.
It's an incentivizer. Like Xavier had a bunch of roster bonuses. This year. Think of it like that. Hey, look, you get a loss, you get a little roster bonus. Like,
Yeah, like what he's essentially being told is, look, we're destroying your roster. We're destroying your roster.
Yeah.
We're destroying
we're helping
your roster.
you. Just help us out too. Just go out and lose a couple games.
Well, that's the whole thing. They're not telling him to do that. They're telling him, we're destroying your team, and we're compensating you for destroying your team by paying you $100,000 for every game that you lose.
That's kind of splitting hairs.
A bunch of cloak and daggers, bro. Like, that shit is like, look, it is what it is.
That's what it's going to get down to with legalities, though. That's literally
what. But if you talk to any attorney, they'll tell you that that's completely legal and that could be in an NFL contract tomorrow. Okay. The only thing, and I will say this, and we'll get off of this because this is not important to the lawsuit and to the bigger issue, but most of the allegations against the Dolphins in this lawsuit have nothing to do with the actual lawsuit.
They're just hearsay, to be honest.
And it really does read like, and I was talking to this earlier with one of my colleagues on 3 yards per carry. He agrees. It reads like revenge porn.
That's how the Dolphins shit in the media read to me. Like, it read like revenge porn against Flores. Like,
so yeah, this is Brian Flores essentially saying, "Oh, you did that to me on the way out. I'm doing this to you on the way out, and you're gonna take this."
I don't get that. I with all due respect, like, I feel like that's just kind of like glossing over what this really was. Like, I think that this is legitimate. Like, I think this man had legitimate gripes with the way things were handled, and he's trying to shed light on a topic that everybody already knows about, but nobody wants to have the conversation about. So he's bringing it to the courts. Like, the way that the NFL conducts business in terms of minority hires is bullshit. Like, so I don't care if it looks like revenge porn or
no,
if
but
it looks like something.
I'm talking about the Dolphin.
Yeah,
part.
I'll just say, because that's my thing when I said, like, I received it in waves, because it's like he shed light onto that stuff 100%, but on the back end, it was like, I don't know if throwing in the 100K stuff is really like the place for it. Like I get why he would do that, to show an overall just bad culture as far as like,
He's showing
you
the
know,
Dolphins
owners.
are not a good team.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
get that, but I just
You don't understand why he would throw in like they're telling him to lose games, because that goes into his job review or his job performance. Like if they want to justify firing him, then they could talk about that kind of stuff of how many games he won and lost. When you incentivizing him losing, but that's not legal. You're gonna stir that shit up in legal jargon. Like there's some validity to the reason why he would put it in there. I get it. I'm with you guys where most of this stuff has nothing to do with the actual legal aspect of what he's trying to. It is revenge porn. It's throwing shots, but there is some way that he can tie this into his case as well.
Yeah, because my issue is, and why the reason I brought it up, and the reason I call it revenge porn, is because if you read the lawsuit, there's no way that Brian Flores can prove that the Dolphins aggrieved him in any way. They hired him, they interviewed him, and they gave him the job. So, you know, now that your boss may ask you to do something you don't expect to do or you don't want to do, I think the Tom Brady thing is completely insane. He shouldn't bring that up in court, because that'll get laughed out of court. Okay, where he was offended that think about it. You hire me, and then you're going to be offended that your owner basically locks you in a yacht with Tom Brady.
I mean, but let's call a spade a spade. What is that there to accomplish? To point the finger and say, "Hey, motherfuckers, you guys also were trying to go ahead and get a quarterback, just like I was, as you're portraying, or whatever's going on in the media."
That's the tit for tat that you're doing. Y'all go put the show
it's literally
on there.
it is. That's why I kind of do
too.
agree with Alfredo, where it is revenge porn, because it's like, all right, you got me with this, bam, I got you with that. You got me with this, bam, I got you. Like, they're just literally like going back and forth. But it's unfortunate for me, because the first part of that lawsuit, it does hold water and it does have merit, right? Like, I feel like the practices, the Rooney Rule, that stuff all should be, you know, legitimately looked at differently. Like you know, we kind of do call it what it is. Like, the Rooney Rule is, you know, BS. Like, it was meant to, you know, put a system in place where these guys can have a chance, but the chance became like, just like, you know, like a bone to throw. And it's like, you know, oh well, you know, at least your name's among the head coaches, where it's not maybe the top 32, but you're in the top 40, so you have a shot. But they really never really get a shot. I mean, look at David Culley, and look, say what you want about the man. The man was smart enough to, you know, lay out his contract the way he did, and, you know, he walked out with a bag. So shout out to him. But yeah, I mean, he knew what he was signing up for, and everybody knows what that is. It's just like, it's literally a bone that's thrown at them, and it's like, it needs to be discussed.
Just for clarity, we have been only talking about the aspect where he's talking about the Dolphins. That stuff is probably immaterial to the case. The stuff against the Denver Broncos was scathing, like in my honest opinion. And even some of the stuff with the Giants, like that stuff is a little murky as well. But the stuff against the Denver Broncos, where you're talking about people are coming in here hungover, you know what I mean, 3 hours late for an interview, that is something that could, you know, potentially.
Let me get into that, and we're going to get into that, because I think that's really, really important. The lawsuit is essentially launched because of the actions of the New York Giants. I spoke to somebody who basically broke it all down, and the entire action, the entire lawsuit, is due to the Giants doing what they did, which was essentially conduct a sham interview with Brian Flores. They lied to his face while they already had Brian Dable hired. So if they hire Brian Flores, there's no lawsuit. So all this begins and kind of ends with the Giants. But the thing about the Broncos that's interesting, and it kind of tells you what the NFL is thinking. The Broncos, I don't know if you saw their what they're doing right now. Royal, have you been paying attention?
They're undressing that whole thing tit for tat. Yeah, they are literally hitting up every Twitter presence that covered the Denver Broncos during that period and recorded his interview from like that week where we played them. And I think it was last year where we, you know, who shall not be named had a bad game. And that's crazy. It's funny. Yeah, and basically the Broncos are saying, look, we'll play you all the interviews that Brian Flores has done about our meeting,
and we have records of the meeting. And then they got Mike Kliss out there saying that the Broncos always record their meetings and keep meticulous records of every single one of their meetings, and that their meeting started at 7:30, which in the morning, which kind of tells me, these guys probably did come in.
It lasted 3.5 hours. The allotted time.
Yeah, the allotted time that they use for all. So this is going to be extremely fascinating and interesting. But let me ask you, Royal, because I think this is really important. The NFL has an intern program, okay? And all of these things are designed one way or the other, right? Like they're designed to it's like a cause and effect. They're trying to cause something so there is a positive effect. There are good intentions, right? Like these are not, they don't have evil intentions. There's good intentions. Like most of the people that wrote up the Rooney Rule wanted more black coaches. They didn't want less, which is exactly what we're getting.
I don't know if they wanted more black coaches or if they wanted the appearance of wanting more black coaches. That is my problem. That is my problem.
That's a good point.
If you need the rule,
right, then you don't have to put rules to tell me that you want black coaches.
Yeah, like
hire a black coach, and that'll be the end of it. Like,
but let me ask you, Royal, what's the problem with? I don't know what's happening from point A to point B, where they have an intern program that's getting a lot of former players as assistants, and the Dolphins have a few. Okay, I believe Gerald Alexander, who's now a star in the league, he started in that intern program. Okay, I do know that Charles Burks, his assistant DB's coach, did start in that program. That program is designed to bring in former players, minority coaches, to work as assistants, basically not for a lot of money, but to start enhancing their resume, so they start getting promoted up the ladder. And then eventually when you get promoted up the ladder, you get those coordinator jobs. And then once you get a coordinator job, then you can get a head coaching job, right? But somehow there's a wall somewhere.
This program is absolute shit. Then
I don't think they get lost. They're there. What happens is the Kellen Moores of the world, the Josh McCowns of the world, they all of a sudden get head coaching positions or offered to them, or not even offered to them. Let me be correct. They get interviews.
The Wall is coordinator, Juan. The Wall is coordinator.
All I've heard about Josh McCown
I
in the
think
Houston
Royal has
Texans
a great point. And I'll let you finish right now, Juan. But I think Royal has a great point. I think the NFL has substituted head coach with coordinator, and that's where minorities have reached. Yeah,
like it's you can be one of the guys. You can't be the guy. Like that's what it feels like all the time. Every time a situation like this, right? And I kind of want to hear what Lewis has to say because he's been sitting here for a very long time, very quiet. And like this is the longest I've ever heard Lewis not talk. So I want to hear him. But I feel like there's this wall in place in terms of like in terms of minority coaches. I'll say minority coaches. I won't just say black, but minority coaches where you can be one of the guys, but you can't be the guy. Like, or not for long anyway. Flores was the guy for a little while, but any reason, get out of here. Some of these guys get 1-year opportunities for college, unproven guys. It's just a never-ending cycle. So this program, the Rooney Rule, all of it's in place to make it look good. It's bells and whistles, though, Alf. Like, it ain't doing shit.
Yeah, the wall seems to be erected right at coordinator. Like, if you make coordinator, then the program worked for you to make coordinator. That's it. It's not getting you past there.
It's not meant to make you a head coach.
Yeah. Now, Lewis, you've been watching Twitter and what they're doing, all day. It's been fun, okay, or tragic, however you want to slice it. What is the media actually doing? Because what ESPN did in the first 5 minutes of this story breaking was absolutely disgusting, and to the point where they ended up walking it back and started actually talking about the actual lawsuit and what's actually in the lawsuit. So what is your sense of what the media has done with the story so far?
Well, I'm not going to lie. I haven't been able to see much of what the media has done because I'm being dead honest with you guys. I'm technically still at work. Everybody knows that I'm doing the show, which is okay, but I haven't been able to sit in front of the TV and see what's going on. As soon as I got off the show with Dono, I came out and I saw Mina Kimes come out and start talking about whatever it was they were talking about. I couldn't hear what she was saying because I didn't have audio. But what I will say, and this is more to the general point, I can't answer the media question because I'm not being able to see everything because I'm still doing other stuff. But I will say that this speaks to a broader problem, not just in the NFL, in the world at large, is that people will always default to the ones that they know. When they say the good old boys club, it's people that know each other. It's people that have connections to each other. They already know that the Giants knew they wanted Brian Daboll the moment their GM got hired. That was their guy. End of discussion. They knew that's who they wanted. So whoever else was interviewed at that point was irrelevant. They wanted Brian Daboll. No questions asked. And so a lot of the times when guys get hired, it's because the GM or the owner knows this person extremely well. Why is it that every time there's even the smallest possibility that Jim Harbaugh might shake free, that suddenly there's 5,000 reports that the Dolphins are interested in Jim Harbaugh? It's not because Jim Harbaugh loves Miami or anything like that. It's that connection with the guy signing the checks. And we add the Rooney Rule comes in. I don't know if it was put in place with a good intention or if it was just for show, but the entire concept of the Rooney Rule is to, yes, give them a chance, but in reality, it's an attempt to fix the interior, which is the heart problem. I know somebody, and so I want to hire them. By messing with the exterior, I'll change the circumstances for how things go in an attempt to fix the interior of the problem. You can't fix the problem the NFL is having right now with rules, regulations, incentives, punishments. You can't fix it with that. The issue is with the people. The issue is with the people. And so until you change the people, like either they have a change of heart or there's a change of ownership, a change of the guard, the issue is not going to go away.
Yeah, no, and you talk about the good old boys club. It's also how the vetting process is for the NFL for the owners. Like it's who they let into their little club, right? And Jerry Jones famously once said there was a guy, I don't know if you guys know who he is, Tom Clancy. Have you guys ever heard of Tom Clancy? He's an author. He tried to buy the Minnesota Vikings once, and Jerry Jones essentially told him, you can't come into the NFL on a shoestring. So they have these set rules of who they will allow by an NFL franchise. And I think that is excluding a lot of minority ownership. And it's really, really excluding groups that can get together and bring minority ownership into the NFL. And I think that's a huge issue. Okay. For example, Jay-Z is probably not liquid enough to be approved in the first round of vetting to be an NFL owner. But he can buy an NBA franchise. Why? Because they'll allow him to get a group together where he can buy 15%, 20%, and he could be the majority owner. The NFL doesn't allow that. And I think that's part of the problem as well. Once they change those rules, I think you're going to see more minority hiring, because if not, you're going to have the same people. You're going to have the same I know it's, Mike Florio, and we don't like Mike Florio too much around here. At least I don't like him. But he says that it's the oligarch club in the NFL, and it's the truth. It's the wealthiest of the wealthiest in the NFL, and they won't allow ownership groups. Once they allow ownership groups, you're going to see a lot more minority representation.
Yeah, because they get voting power.
Exactly. Right?
They get voting power, and then they get to the connections that Lewis was alluding to, where I'm going to bring in the people that I want, and a lot of times those people are going to look like me. Yeah, and that's just how it's going to work in this organization in particular. And once you have one organization, that opens the door for others to be named.
Yeah, and one thing they can do is they can, like with the Rooney Rule is set in place, and to be honest with you, it's going to be impossible to enforce, even in court. You can't tell a guy who to hire, right?
Right.
But you can force them to have intern programs, especially in the executive side. And if you do that, you begin to change the demographics of front offices in the NFL slowly, because it's not going to happen overnight. And once you do that, you can start changing it. And that's happening.
By the time it's changed, Flores will be long gone.
Yes.
This will be 7 Reasons Sports Network by the time that shit goes down, Alfredo.
Yes.
Like, listen, that's what the Rooney Rule was supposed to help. Like, it was supposed to help, and right now we're talking about it. Like, it's a system in place to try and help spur growth of minority head coaches, and we have one. Like, let's be real, man. That shit's not going to do anything. They're going to slap some more rules on it and hire who they want to hire, bro. You have it right on the head. Like, you just.
But I think you got to get to the people that are doing the hiring, and the only way you do that is getting minorities into roles of leadership in front offices, because those are the people that eventually do the hiring. They're the ones that eventually do the interviews. Sure. So that's one way you could get to where you want to go. But the Rooney Rule, I feel this lawsuit could be the final nail in that coffin. And it's going to open up a whole can of worms. I don't think the NFL is going to want this to go away. I think they're going to fight this one.
You think
if
so?
You
no, they said as such. In the story that I posted, it's just straight up from the NFL saying that the NFL, and I quote, I'm quoting from the NFL. The NFL and our clubs are deeply committed to ensuring equitable employment practices and continue to make progress in providing equitable opportunities throughout our organizations. Diversity is core to everything we do, and there are few issues on which our clubs and our internal leadership team spend more time. We will defend against these claims, which are without merit. That is quoted from the NFL statement.
Internal leadership teams, essentially, you can say that the NFL cheated. You can say that they lied. They will pay you off and get it over with. But if you call them racist, they're going to fight you back. Mm-hmm. That is what's happening here. Like, they will let you say anything else about them. They don't give a shit. They know it's all true. But the image of being seen as racist is what they're so afraid of. That's what it is with so many people. It's just the imagery of like, even if you know it's true, just we can't personally allow that image to be that be cast out there.
Yeah, and to be clear, because I've seen a lot of people on Twitter try to compare this to Kaepernick and Eric Reed. This is completely 180 degrees different. This is a class action lawsuit alleging a general practice by the NFL. It's a class action lawsuit looking for damages and a change to what they're doing. Colin Kaepernick and Eric Reed were personally aggrieved, and they were suing on their own behalf the NFL. So because they settled doesn't mean that they actually, caved or they were on a hustle to get, although who knows if they were on a hustle to get money, but they didn't have like a greater cause they could expose. Brian Flores is actually, he is actually on a cause to expose the NFL. Like, this is not a hustle like some people think it is. Okay. Right. Like, this is a real, what Brian Flores is doing is actually noble. He may be wrong, okay, and he may have made a mistake by the way he's done
horribly,
this. But what he's doing is actually noble.
He's
no doubt about that.
He's literally falling on the sword, and he's saying, "Whoever's down, now's the time."
Come
bro.
with me. I don't think he's wrong. Like, I
can I point something out?
Wrong about it. Go ahead.
So, the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know if you guys saw. The report came out that Harbaugh was essentially hired already, like the deal was done by folks like Pro Football Talk, so Mike Florio and them. And just now, the Vikings, like after that report came out, the Vikings acknowledged and announced that they had interviewed Patrick Graham
for 11 hours or something.
Yes, and Patrick Graham, who of course is good friends with Brian Flores. If he wanted to, he could add that and be like, look, this came out that you guys are going to hire. If the Vikings hire Harbaugh now, it's going to look bad because the Harbaugh announcement came before the announcement of Patrick Graham.
Although they do have cover because the general manager there is African-American and is a friend of Harbaugh. Like, we could have seen this. The writing was on the wall a week ago when they hired, and I keep forgetting his name, and I don't want to, insult the man by not pronouncing his name correctly. But he was hired a week ago, and he was with Harbaugh and the 49ers. So,
but it's the same concept. It's, again, I know who I want. Everybody else is.
Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is the new general manager of the Minnesota Vikings, and right, I said that really fast, and I hope I got it right.
I have a response to kind of this guy Elijah Pearson. He's like, "Why ruin your career though?" Doug Peterson literally won a Super Bowl and still doesn't have a job. In all honesty, like I think with the perception that was being painted of Flores prior to this lawsuit coming out, how long do you think it would have been before he actually got another opportunity to be a head coach? If he's perceived as a person who's extremely difficult to work with, extremely condescending, extremely rude to people, who else is going to hire this man to lead their franchise? Go ahead.
Both things can be true.
What's that?
Both things can be true.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just
And
they?
one thing, and you got to remember, look what happened to Josh McDaniels, and look what were Josh McDaniels' first comments.
Royal, can I comment real quick? Sorry, Alfredo. Can I comment on that, Royal?
Yeah, go ahead.
We all know that Omar Kelly will come out and talk about these issues all the time. Even he was like, nobody talks to me like Brian Flores talks to me. He didn't appreciate it. So there's that.
Yeah, they had their own issues. And Josh McDaniels, his first comments when he was introduced as the new Las Vegas coach, he said that the first go around, he didn't know how to work with people. And what did they make him wait? They made him wait, 10 years?
Yeah, but
I'm not saying that Brian Flores. That's
Brian
what
Flores is not.
Brian Flores can't wait 10 years to get another job.
And let's also put it in that Josh McDaniels was drafted Tim Tebow first in the first round.
Yeah,
traded away.
He was a disaster.
He told Brandon Marshall after I think he had his first 1,100-yard season that you're a nobody and you have to prove yourself to me.
Did you guys ever see Darrell Williams talk about? Darrell Williams was a linebacker for those Bronco teams. Talk about Josh McDaniel, how they were cheating and they were 6-0, and then after that they got caught and then they just started losing every single game. So yeah, there's a story on it there's a podcast he does with Brandon Marshall, and it's hilarious. And he I Am Athlete, their I Am Athlete podcast, and he talks about it there. Another thing on this lawsuit, and it's also really instructive and really interesting because I really don't get this part. I think this is the part where it softens up. Like, I don't know why you would put this in here unless you just wanted to hurt the Dolphins.
Which point is it?
Tom Brady was
that's number 15. Yes.
Okay, he retired today, but essentially Brian Flores insinuates
all over his retirement news.
Yes, Brian Flores insinuates that Stephen Ross was tampering with New England Patriots quarterback at the time, New England Patriots quarterback Tom Brady. He had not been a free agent yet. He had not declared for free agency yet. So he was still under contract of the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
Like, why would you snitch on that? Like, that doesn't make you look good. That just hurts the Dolphins, really. Eventually. Yeah, like, I don't see what's the point in that one.
I mean, you said it earlier. It's revenge. Like, you guys hurt me, and I'm gonna come after you
for sure. Like,
I'm gonna do everything I can to make you look bad.
The way the media spun it was, it was only Flores that wanted, a certain 2-letter quarterback. He's going out here and saying, "Hey, look,
to believe that they wanted TB, not DW."
Listen, I think they wanted both. And look, I'm going to be consistent here because I called bullshit when the organization said that they didn't want it. They didn't want DW. I'm going to call bullshit that Brian Flores just walked out of a conversation with Tom Brady if that was available. You're not.
But he's the one who said it.
I was so appalled I left. Stop it now.
Do you guys remember? Do you guys remember when on LeBron's, and I got to get the name, did he call what was it called? The barbershop?
Yeah.
LeBron's going to sue 5 Reasons now if I get the name of his show wrong. But you remember when he had Tom Brady on there, and Tom Brady said that there was another team he had met with, and he told those guys.
No, that clip's been going around for a while. Yeah, it's the Dolphins.
So was that Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Yeah. He was talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I mean, look.
And think about because everybody's saying, why would Tom Brady want to go to a 5-11 team? Well, that team did go 10-6 the year after without Tom Brady, and they had 3 first-round picks. They would not use it on a quarterback.
Didn't Tom Brady's last game in the regular season end versus the Dolphins with a loss?
Yes.
And okay, just no, I see it. I see the vision there for sure.
Like you could
I-
see how Tom Brady was like, I basically get to make the whole team myself.
and let's be honest, is that shocking for us to hear from a guy that we know like Ross, who's gone after Harbaugh like 3 times at this point, who signed Sue, who, you know what I'm saying, like he's down for the big whale. I just think, you know, I will give some credit to Brian Flores, though. I do think he has some type of loyalty to Bill Belichick, even if it's like a blind, you know, loyalty. That's kind of like kind of weird that you would have a loyalty to him over the Dolphins.
That's crazy because he put Bill ass out there today too, man. Like,
you know what? If we want to talk about that,
boomers should not have cell phones, bro. Like, that's what I took.
If the NFL has been fucking Bill Belichick for years, let me tell you, that too little, you know, thread message was a big, you know what, to the NFL. So I mean, not a conspiracy theorist here, but I'm just saying it's kind of convenient.
yeah. And by the way that the lawsuit reads, and not to turn this into, you know, court TV or anything, but I've been talking to an attorney today, and I was asking him, like, what's the juicy stuff that could come out of this? And she told me people that want like the Washington football team stuff to come out through this, not going to happen because it's not material to it. And a lot of the Dolphin stuff, like Stephen Ross on the, you know, getting
but
deposed.
he did talk about the Raiders though.
Yes, like that could be on there.
He talked about the Raiders. He talked about how after they hired Gruden, I think 2 years into it, they fired Reggie McKenzie, replaced him for Mike Mayock. How the percentage of black players every year on the Raiders, I think, also like decreased. I think I talked about a lot about the Raiders actually. Now that I remember.
Yeah, and you know who he also talks about? Jim Caldwell.
He did talk about Caldwell with the Lions, and I think with the Colts too.
Yes. So all of those are, because the lawsuit's 58 pages, and 4 pages are what are the allegations, right? That's the actual lawsuit, and 50 is just it's basically the history.
It's literally the history of the NFL. Like if you want to talk about like Joe Namath sticking his finger up, everything's there. Like
everything's there. Well, they talk about a team in 1926 in there. That tells you all you need to know. Yeah. But what is interesting here is, and we got to get Royal out soon because
I was about to say, like, I'm gonna head out. You know, Heat game coming down to the wire. I got to go do my real job. You guys have a great rest of the show. Fun conversation. Appreciate it, man.
Peace. All right, Royal. All right. We only got about 10 minutes or so left in the show, so we can begin wrapping up. And we could talk about, you know, how this looks and what's the end game here. Because first of all, Brian Flores is going to be on CBS tomorrow morning at 7:30. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's going to be huge ratings. I don't know if you guys have been watching NFL Network, but the NFL Network is basically acting as if this doesn't exist. You know,
I am I crazy though? Because like I just don't watch TV anymore, but I feel like nobody's really talking about it. I saw ESPN like mention it, and then they were like mentioning it wrong, and I just like kind of turned off.
Yeah, well, ESPN, their first 5 minutes were absolutely disgraceful. They were on their NFL live show, and they started trying to dissect the 2019 Dolphin season and which games they were throwing. Like, that's just embarrassing, okay? Okay, like and they walked that back so fast, it wasn't even funny, because then they had the second re-airing of NFL Live. And
Alfredo, do you mind if I throw a theory at you?
Well, hold on. Let me just say this. I saw the second viewing of NFL Live, ESPN, and I saw that you edited out that part of your show. So there's a reason why you edited out you guys playing detective on. And by the way, they had a great one. They mentioned the Zero Blitz, which we put on a T-shirt, okay, which was Torstaflosas against the Steelers. Remember? They said that Zero Blitz was designed to tank that game against the Steelers. Okay. So I saw you edit that out, ESPN. So, all right, go ahead, Lewis. Your theory?
This is gonna be like one of those Dono tinfoil cap things, but part of me can't help but wonder, because ESPN has not been shy in the past about talking about issues like this. Like First Take is almost an issue like this every single day, and so all of a sudden now it's the Dolphins. And it's the Dolphins coach. Now they don't want to talk about it. I just can't help but wonder, again, tinfoil cap, the Dono cap, if this has something to do with the fact that they still don't want to talk about the Dolphins in any capacity. So we're just going to gloss over it and pretend it's not a thing until other teams get involved.
Nah, but this time they get to smear the Dolphins, so they'll
No,
talk about the
you
Dolphins.
know what though? But it's just like, again, whether it's smearing or praising, they don't want to talk about them ever, because they'll talk about the Browns being bad all day long. Like I was literally watching. It was a few years ago, and the Cleveland Browns were like the worst team of the worst bunch, and the Dolphins were right there with them. They spent a good half an hour talking about the Cleveland Browns and what's wrong with them. Didn't even touch the Dolphins. They don't care. They don't care about Miami. They don't want to talk about Miami. Either it's good or bad. So maybe that's why they had to walk it back when they realized, hey, this is not one of your regular don't want to talk about Miami situations. You guys got to talk about this.
And
that's tinfoil cap conspiracy stuff there.
Now, let me say this. Since all of this has come out, and obviously Brian Flores has gone full-blown revenge here on the Dolphins, isn't this yet another indictment of Stephen Ross, another guy he hires that ends up blowing up right in his face? Like, this is the latest, right? Isn't this is the latest indignity?
It's like a pattern, and it's like at this point, like we're insane to think that the next one's gonna get right. Like it's like, if I'm betting, I'm like, okay, well, who's gonna be the worst of the bunch? That whoever we pick, that's gonna be it. Like,
but he keeps wanting the same guy, right? He keeps wanting the same guy, and he wants them to be a little bit different. Maybe Mike McDaniel.
You know what
alert,
I think it's
going to be different.
I think he needs somebody to take everything off his plate, and like not in like a passive aggressive way, but like in a no, like don't touch this. Like I need you to like get out, like to tell him stuff like that. I feel like Brian Flores overstepped it, and that's kind of like what bit him in the ass. But I feel like somebody like Harbaugh would be the one to be like, "Yo, hey, Steven, I appreciate the input," and he's gonna give him a little shoulder tap, be like, "But I got this."
Well, let's look at the pattern here. The pattern here is Brian Flores gets hired. Supposedly he gets told like, "Hey, hint, like I kind of want that number one pick. We're gonna destroy your team." He insists on Ryan Fitzpatrick. He gets Ryan Fitzpatrick. Let's face it, you get Ryan Fitzpatrick on your team, you're not going to get the number one pick.
Yeah.
He's going to will you to at least 2-3 wins by himself, and that's going to not get you. So right there, Flores gets his way. So I think the problem is that Stephen Ross keeps suggesting things. Then he locks him in on a yacht with Tom Brady. I don't know if Giselle was there.
It's funny. You think about it.
He locks him in a yacht with Tom Brady, and then Brian Flores is like, nope, I would have fired him right there. Okay, I keep telling you I want this done. I'm the boss here, and you keep telling me no. And then eventually he gets fired this year because they had a meeting after that Patriots game, and I have it on very good authority, very good source that tells me that Chris Greer, and Stephen Ross were basically telling him, look, there's going to be changes on the offensive side of the ball. And Brian Flores basically told him, you don't have the authority to do that on my staff. And they said, well, I do have the authority to fire you, though. So, it seems like Brian Flores was trying to be that, but he didn't have the clout to do that,
But the other thing, though, is, Alf, this is where it comes down to, again, where Flores, is he really justified in making that demand? See, that's the thing again. This is now is when we start talking about, well, did Flores deserve to be fired? And it's on either end. Because, again, if he's trying to keep his offensive staff together and his offensive staff is incompetent to the nth degree, well, then at that point, I wouldn't want to keep you. Because
I would want to keep a coach who, after a year of his owner telling him,
but not if his offense is going to be the same.
Back-to-back winning seasons, yeah, I would 100%. I would.
He wants to keep Lemuel Jean-Pierre. He wants to keep George Godsey.
You know what though? But that to me isn't because of a skill thing. He saw the output on the field, right? And we're gonna find out real quickly this year whether it was Brian Flores or whether it was the players that were picked.
I mean, it's gonna be the same result.
It's gonna be the same. So then
I don't think so. I think. Look, and I've said this a million times, and I'll say it till I die. Okay, players win games in this league. Okay, like there's good coaches in this league. There's about 6 or 7 coaches that are legitimate. Like those guys, those are the guys that you want, that they actually make a difference. But what difference do they make? Maybe 1 or 2 games in a season, maybe. Okay, and 1 or 2 games can mean the playoffs and a deep run, or
1 or 2
or
games
being
for
out,
2
right?
One
years,
game.
literally.
Okay. But you got to understand, whoever's getting this roster, and let's say it's Mike McDaniel, especially Mike McDaniel. If Mike McDaniel gets this roster, what is he really going to quote unquote change? He's going to change the style, and he's going to change the style for a style that kind of fits what this team actually is. And if he keeps most of the defensive staff, you're talking about last year's roster with an added $70 million in payroll. That team is going to be good enough. And put it this way, if they win 10 games, then it'll be an improvement, but they probably really didn't do enough if you think about it. So I think that just by circumstance, they're going to prove themselves right, but they're not going to be right in the long run, I don't think.
All right, but here's the question, though. With everything going on right now, does McDaniel still accept the job if offered?
Yes, because it's 1 of 32, and it's a great job. And I keep telling people this, and people keep wondering, why I keep saying this. It's a good job. It's in Miami. You got cap space, good young nucleus. You have a good defensive roster.
But will you suddenly become the target?
It's a lot of it's a lot of unknowns, though, Alf. You got an unknown owner at this point who is kind of known for fucking it up at every point.
And especially
you
now,
got a GM who's
I don't want to,
proven to just, kind of, handle things while you're coaching down on the field and, kind of talk to your owner's ear. You're looking at cap space, yeah, but who's signing these dudes? Chris Greer?
Well, Chris Greer.
I mean,
Chris Greer is not going to be all of a sudden the alpha.
No,
guy.
Chris,
and look,
that is not an issue.
And you've been on the fact that you don't expect the letdown on the defense, but I don't know, man. I gotta tell you, if we're banking on Gerald Alexander or Josh Boyer to have to be here, that's tough for me, because again, now you're looking at a rookie head coach being forced on a GM, a quarterback, and an entire defensive staff.
But if the staff is good,
but if the staff, I don't see how you could. And I said this before, I don't know how you can justify firing Boyer, Austin Clark, or Gerald Alexander. All 3 of those guys will get a job in a second.
But
they're actually really good coaches.
But we talked about, coaches want to bring in their own guys. Coaches want to bring their own guys. And who am I to sit here and tell McDaniel, nope, can't have your defensive coordinator that you want because you have to have Gerald Alexander, you have to have Josh Boyer. It's that's what I'm saying. Now you're telling him, hey, look, this GM you got to get along with. This defensive coordinator you got to get along with. This quarterback you got to get along with. But don't worry, if it all blows up this year, next year you got 2 first-round picks, and
which I'm not convinced they will have.
You get to pick. Is the head coach going to pick the GM next year, or that's what I'm saying. I just don't see it as clear cut as just you sign one guy, fix the offense, and you just keep it rolling. I just don't see it working out that way.
Well, I think that they made it pretty clear when they fired Brian Flores that this is Chris Greer's show, and that the guy under him, Marvin Allen, is his assistant, and they're going to sink or swim with these 2 guys for whatever they do these next 2 years. And if this coach fails, everybody's gone, and I mean all of them. And I think he'll sell too.
Don't forget Reggie McKenzie; he's in there too.
Well, Reggie McKenzie's been interviewing for other jobs, but Marvin Allen has. I don't understand why Marvin Allen is still here when he can get jobs elsewhere in the league. But it seems like he was installed here as a fail-safe, right? Like a guy that could step in case Chris Greer got fired. So we shall see. But I do expect the team to be improved, because I really don't think that a lot of these coaches matter all that much.
Okay, so I want to bottom line in here. So you personally think that after all is said and done with this whole thing, that the Dolphins are not going to be very much worse for wear?
No, I think they're going to be improved, and then they're going to decide. They're going to look at what they're improved, how much they are improved, and then they're going to probably make a calculation, and they're going to have to make a very cold calculation at the end of the year. Let's say they go 10-7, they make the wild card round, and they lose. Even if they lose, just like the Raiders lost, they lost at the 5-yard line. Even if they lose that way, they're going to have to make a cold calculation and say, look, we kind of failed here. This is 3 years of building up the roster, and the best we can do is a wild card exit. You know what? It's time to get rid of Tua and use these 2 picks for a veteran QB and try to go that route. And that's probably what they're going to do.
I'm going to respectfully, completely disagree. If the Dolphins go 10-7 next year and make the playoffs with Tua playing at least 15 games, there is no way in hell are they getting rid of him. It's just not happening.
They're going to have to make a cold calculation.
They're going to sell themselves the dream of, nah, we're so close. Look, we've been Josh Allen in 4th year, and that's
But that's what Kansas City did, Juan, and that's why that would be a mistake.
Kansas City didn't let a good player stop them from getting an elite one. I don't see who here has the balls to make that decision, if I'm being honest.
The jump next year, and I'm telling you, it has to be a cold calculation because they're basically
100%. I'm agreeing with you.
They're basically telling you what I've always thought. I've always thought that like 6 head coaches make a difference. Trust me, Brian Flores is not one of those 6 head coaches. Okay, neither was Brian Daboll, neither was Mike McDaniel. Maybe Harbaugh is, but I have my my thoughts on Harbaugh. Doug Peterson, I don't know. He can't get a job now either. So none of those guys really matter. So you're telling me what matters is that the roster, right? Well, you're adding $70 million in payroll to that roster, and you got a 1st-round pick late in the 1st round that you could probably use to get another player. This team is going to be improved. They're going to have to make a cold calculation. The jump is going to have to be so big for them to justify going forward as is that I don't know how they can sell it. And if they do try to sell it, then that could be the mistake that really brings down the whole thing, because it'll be essentially another Kansas City Chiefs situation. It'll be like the Chiefs 4 years ago saying, you know what, Alex Smith is fine. You know what I mean? We don't need to trade for Patrick Mahomes. So it's going to have to be a really cold calculation.
I can tell you why Doug Peterson's, because the word is, and
y'all got that Ethernet.
You're really distorted, man.
I am.
Yeah, you're distorted right now.
We can barely understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now you're muted.
Yeah, now you're muted.
How about now?
Yeah, now you sound good.
Let's go ahead and try this again. So I know why Doug Peterson has not had a head coaching job yet, because right after he won the Super Bowl, obviously when you win a Super Bowl as a head coach in this league, it's like, hey, I deserve a little bit more leeway. I deserve a little bit more power. I deserve more respect. He obviously didn't get that in the Eagles organization, especially when you have a guy like Chris Greer. He really reminds me of Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman does what the owner says, and if the coach doesn't do anything that he wants him to do, he goes running back to the Eagles owner. Hey, he's not doing it.
And oddly enough, they have a great relationship, Howie Roseman and Chris Greer.
There you go. And Chris Greer, they're always together at Mobile and Indianapolis. There's no cuts about it. It's cut from the same cloth the way they work. But again, Doug, to me, and it's been said as well, Doug Peterson still has a head coaching job because he wants to have more control. And most owners in today's league don't want to give that to a head coach. And it's like, well, I give everything to my general manager, let him solve everything. You're just here to do one job. That's it. And, I'm sure Doug say, hey, I'm fine without, having a job, but he's not going to get one. And all these Dolphin fans that wanted him, yeah, but there's so many things that had to happen right for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. It's not all on Doug, but he's not going to get a job whatsoever. And also, just one more thing, because I listen, guys, thank you for the comments, but you just are absolutely insane if you think I'm going to put half of these up here. Last year, when the Eagles were looking for a head coach, okay, Deuce Staley, all-time Eagles, everything, stat guy played on a broken leg, ultimate ego in the 90s, 2000s, okay? This man deserved an opportunity to at least get an interview. He had yet to get one. It took the fans going on the station at 94 WIP and say, why? Oh, Lord and behold, they interviewed him the following week. But guess what happens 4 or 5 days afterwards? They hired Nick Sirianni. And again, it's just for all you guys in this show, it's just the Dolphins. It's not the Dolphins. It's just the league in general per se. But still, Deuce Staley, man, like this guy's a legend in Philadelphia, and he had yet to get a head coaching interview while being on staff at Andy Reid and Chip Kelly and who was the other, and and freaking Doug Peterson's staff. The man lasted here 12 plus seasons as a coach and over 12, 14 years as a player. That's not even enough now. So,
yeah, what strikes me as and I guess we could go out on this, and then I'll ask one question so we could go around the panel here one last time. But what strikes me is that this owner, Stephen Ross, has now it's been revealed he actually went after Tom Brady as well, and his coach, I guess, didn't comply with his little cloak and dagger scheme. Do you guys remember when they talked to Peyton Manning? And if you remember that season,
they sent down Dan Marino to talk
to
the
Dolphins.
Yes,
when they flew out to see him because he wouldn't come out to fly to them.
Yeah, well, no, he actually did. He drove down to where they were at, but they were going to fly out to go see him. But then actually he ended up coming down here out of respect to Dan Marino. And if you remember clearly that season, that was the year that Jeff Ireland had all the free agent cash. Remember? And I guess the plan was, hey, Peyton Manning, and then here's all the free agent cash to go get you players. And that didn't happen. I wonder if that was also Phil been telling him no, telling Stephen Ross no. And if that's the case, then why can't Stephen Ross
say no for
off?
what? Because of tampering rules? Because that's what Flores is using as the excuse. Would it have been tampering if it had been?
I think that's the weak. I don't know why he put that into lawsuit, because that just makes him look dumb, Like he was so offended that Tom Brady's locked in a yacht with him. You know what I mean? But yeah, let's just go all the way around on this. We know that this is going to be the media. They're already pulling back on a lot of the Dolphin stuff, and they're putting the Giants on blast and out on the front burner. So I guess the Giants are the ones that are going to eat most of this.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, it looks like, they're going to lose picks. They're going to get fined. They're going to have a serious issue. Okay. I don't know about the Broncos, because the Broncos are like, they look like they're ready for a fight.
Yeah.
But I think the Giants look like, Giants fans should get ready to lose picks.
Yeah,
they
got.
Do you think the Dolphins will get punished?
Nah,
unless you really got like if you really got Flores like with a wiretap and he's out there like recording Ross and that's the only way you're gonna sit here and be able to prove this. Like other than that,
By the way, and Florida is a dual consent state, right?
So he's done.
So Stephen Ross will sue Flores into oblivion if that happened. All right. So
okay. So basically, the Dolphins are not as bad off as it sounds.
No, they're just getting smeared by the media for just a day. You know what I mean? But we'll go around the panel here. It is now Tuesday, 10 o'clock on a Tuesday. We'll start with Manny. When do the Dolphins have a head coach, and who is it this week?
Oh, my God. When will the Dolphins have a head coach? Jesus Christ. What date are we? We are February 1st. When is the Super Bowl? Super Bowl is on the 13th, correct?
Yeah.
The Dolphins will have a head coach on February 16th.
And who will it be?
I have no idea.
All right, Juan. When are they going to have a coach, and who is it going to be?
I have like a 3-day window where I think it's going to fall. I think it's going to be between February 5th to like the 8th, and it's going to be Jim Harbaugh. And it's going to be a surprise of we couldn't let him go to Minnesota. If he was going to leave Michigan, it had to be for Miami, and we got the guy we wanted all along. And I think that Harbaugh is like going to
be pretty much confirmed Minnesota by tomorrow. So
and that's why I was saying.
Here's the thing. My theory in that is, I believe signing day is tomorrow. I could be wrong. They got to get a little, a couple of days of commitments, get them signed in. They're good to go, and on he goes on to the NFL, and it's.
Hey guys, I'm still convinced that Harbaugh is trying to weigh Michigan a little bit. Like he saw that Mel Tucker contract that State gave him.
Listen,
I'm sure he's trying to get as much.
He's just trying to get more cash out of Ross, whether it comes from the Dolphins, LTD, or whatever it is that Michigan is. But he's just trying to get more cash out of it.
Yeah, and but I always, one thing about Harbaugh, man, that has always struck me, he's a California guy. He has a big family. He likes to get out to California as often as possible. Man, Miami is as far away from California as you can get. You know what I mean? From Minnesota on a private jet, it's less than 2 hours, and he's in California, Northern California. From Miami, it's 4.5 hours. I don't know. He might see it as an inconvenience, and he also told Stephen Ross no 11 years ago. So I don't know. I have my doubts.
I did not know that Michigan also confirmed this.
Plans to sign with the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
So, all right,
Yeah,
so
that's
that
what I
is
was
happening.
saying. But that's the thing is that this came out before the Patrick Graham announcement.
Correct, Lewis. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I did not see this tweet.
All right,
That's what I
Lewis.
saw, yeah.
All right, Lewis. When do they have a head coach, and who will it be?
It's going to be at least a week, I think, before we get close to that. At least a week. After all this going on, Ross is going to do everything he can to play PR, try to tamp everything down. Like, even if it's not really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things as far as the Dolphins are concerned, it's still an embarrassment because it makes him look bad. And so he'll spend some time trying to fix this whole mess, and he'll have Chris Greer trying to help him to fix this whole mess. So it's going to be at least a week. But at the end of the day, I don't really have another option because Thomas Brown already pulled his name out of the running. He's going back to LA. Kellen Moore, I suspect he'll go back to Dallas, honestly. So that leaves only one individual left, and it's McDaniel. So it's either McDaniel or we may be introducing co-head coaches George Godsey and Eric Stuttsville.
Vance Joseph on the way. Let's go.
Didn't Vance get turned down too?
Yeah, they basically told Vance, you're not getting the job. So
They told Vance, listen, you're fifth in line. If we get to that, we're like, we got to do what we got to do.
Look, last year they tried to do an end around on Brian Flores, and they tried to hire Mike McDaniel and try to pair with Brian Flores, and Mike McDaniel did not want to interview for what was essentially a parallel job. Like, he didn't want to make a lateral move, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say Mike McDaniel will be named coach Saturday morning this week. So we're talking, what day is that? He's interviewing on Thursday.
February 5th, right? On Saturday, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he'll interview on Thursday, and then Saturday morning they'll name him head coach, and they'll do a press conference probably Monday morning next week. All right. That's it. If you want to watch the extra yard, I think you're going to have an episode. Juan, you're going to do an episode before the Super Bowl. You're going to preview the Super Bowl or something, or after, or what are you guys planning? You got to unmute.
He's planning nothing. There's no sounds.
No, for sure doing something. I'm not really sure if it's before or after, but extra yards about to kick on for sure.
All right, perfect. And as far as 3 yards per carry, we were going to do a special report from Mobile tonight because our man Simon Clancy is actually in Mobile, Alabama, covering the Senior Bowl.
Nice.
But
Brian
can you
Flores
imagine those conversations, Alf? Can you imagine those conversations at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock this afternoon?
Yeah, by the way, Simon Clancy told me that Brian Flores was at Mobile, Alabama.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh,
Shooting
we were
daggers across the field at Chris Greer.
So we were supposed to do a special report there tonight. Tonight we were supposed to do like a little podcast. We're gonna move it now to tomorrow night to cover the first 2 days of practices, because unfortunately Brian Flores decided to launch a lawsuit that knocked our podcast off the air for tonight.
By the way, so he will be live on CBS morning, right?
7:30 tomorrow morning.
7:30 tomorrow morning.
Yeah. So look for a Senior Bowl report from 3 yards per carry tomorrow, and then you're gonna get another podcast. So you're gonna get probably 2, maybe 3 podcasts from 3 yards per carry this week on the Senior Bowl. Look for those. All right. That's it. There is no more. Thank you for joining us.